I was staring at the clock when it happened. 2:17 a.m. I should have been asleep, but the silence in the apartment was deafening. Eliza had been gone for hours now, and the only sound was the soft hum of the refrigerator. Her side of the bed, untouched, felt like a reminder of something I couldn't grasp. It didn't make sense. Just that morning we'd been fine. Or at least I thought we were. We talked about dinner, about our weekend plans. Nothing had seemed out of place. And then, without any warning, she'd walked out. "James, I'm sorry. I need some space," she'd said before slipping out the door, the click of the lock echoing in my mind. I could still hear her voice in my head, but it wasn't the words that haunted me. It was her face, the way she'd looked when she said it, like she was a million miles away from me. It wasn't like Eliza to just leave without a word. The last time I'd seen her, her eyes had been full of something I couldn't name. Fear, maybe? No, not fear. Something deeper. I tried to ask her what was wrong, but she'd brushed me off. I stood up and paced around the room, my mind spinning. Something wasn't right. I could feel it in the pit of my stomach. Eliza had always been honest with me, open. She didn't just leave without an explanation. I ran my hands through my hair, desperate to make sense of it. Where the hell was she? The sound of my phone buzzing pulled me out of my thoughts. It was Lucas. I pressed the green button, my voice hoarse. "What's up, man?" "James, it's late. Are you okay?" His voice was soft, almost hesitant, like he was treading on fragile ground. "No, I'm not okay." I could feel my chest tightening. Eliza left. She just left, and I don't know why. There was a long pause. "What do you mean she left? Is she coming back?" I leaned back against the kitchen counter, staring blankly at the door she had walked out of just hours ago. She didn't say anything. Just packed up and walked out. I thought things were fine. She was acting weird before, but I didn't think this. Not like this. "Man, I'm sorry. Do you want me to come over?" I shook my head even though I knew he couldn't see it. "No, I need to figure this out myself. Something's not adding up, Lucas. I'm telling you, I feel like there's more to this. I need to know where she is." "You sure you're okay? You're not just overthinking it?" His voice was low, cautious, like he didn't want to push too hard. "Overthinking it?" I barked out a laugh, but it wasn't funny. "I don't know, Lucas. She doesn't just disappear. There's something else going on. I need to know the truth." I ended the call before Lucas could respond. I was alone again, but this time the silence felt different. It was suffocating, pressing down on me. I stared at the door, wondering if Eliza was out there, somewhere. But then I remembered the last thing she'd said to me before she left. "I need some space, James." "I'm sorry." I had replayed those words over and over in my head, but the meaning was as unclear as it had been the first time I heard them. What did she need space for? What had I missed? I grabbed my coat and walked out of the apartment. It wasn't much, but it was a start. I had to find out where she had gone, why she'd left, and what had happened in those last few days that made her walk away from everything. I wasn't sure where I was headed, just that I couldn't stay in that apartment any longer. I needed answers. As I stepped outside into the cold night air, I could feel my heart racing in my chest. The city lights blurred as my thoughts swirled, but there was one thing I knew for sure. Eliza had vanished. And I was going to find out why. I wasn't sure how long I'd been walking when I heard the soft beep of my phone. A text from Eliza. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you." I stopped in my tracks, staring at the words, my heart pounding. But it wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. It didn't explain anything. I needed more. I pocketed my phone and kept walking, determined to find the answers that would make sense of everything that had just happened. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something important. The message Eliza had sent me, the way she left, the look in her eyes before she disappeared, it was all too off. I needed answers, and I wasn't going to wait for them to fall into my lap. So I started looking. I sat down at the kitchen table, phone in hand, my heart racing. I needed to know where Eliza had gone. What had happened? Why had she left me like this? As I scrolled through the last few messages she had sent me, nothing seemed to fit. Nothing made sense. The messages were short, distant, just enough to leave me hanging. But I knew there was more. I started going through her things. Her clothes were still in the closet, untouched. It didn't make sense, she hadn't taken anything. Her toothbrush, still there, the coffee mug she used every morning, still sitting on the counter. It was as if she'd just walked out, like she was coming back any minute. But I knew deep down that wasn't going to happen. I picked up her phone, staring at the screen. I had never gone through her messages before, never needed to. But something about tonight made me feel like I had no choice. My fingers hovered over the unlock button. Was I really about to do this? Fuck it, I muttered under my breath and unlocked it. The first few messages were nothing strange, but as I dug deeper, something caught my eye: her bank transactions. Several large amounts of money had been transferred to an account I didn't recognize. It didn't add up. Eliza never spent money like this. I opened her bank app, my heart pounding. I scrolled through the list of transactions and there it was. A transfer to a name I didn't recognize, a business account. The date on the transfer was the same day she left. I felt my stomach tighten. There was no way she had left to go shopping or for some spontaneous trip. This was planned. I closed her phone quickly, my mind racing. Eliza had been hiding something from me, and I was about to find out what. My first instinct was to call Lucas. He was her best friend before we started dating, and he knew her better than anyone. He might know something. He had to. I dialed his number, trying to stay calm. The phone rang twice before he picked up. James? What's up? Lucas's voice was casual, but I could tell something was off. It wasn't like him to sound so distant. I need to ask you something, I said, my voice tight. About Eliza. There was a pause on the other end. I could practically hear him thinking, deciding whether or not to tell me the truth. What about her? He asked, trying to sound nonchalant. She's gone, Lucas. She left and I can't figure out why. You were the last person she was with before she disappeared. What do you know? There was another long pause. I could hear him shifting like he was uncomfortable. James, man. I don't know. I've been trying to reach her too. She didn't tell me anything. You know how she is, she's always been a bit unpredictable. I clenched my jaw, trying to control the anger bubbling up inside me. Unpredictable? Lucas, she left everything behind. She didn't even take her damn toothbrush. But you're telling me she didn't mention anything to you? You're her best friend. I didn't. Look, I don't know, okay? She was acting weird the last time I saw her. But it wasn't like she was planning to leave. She didn't say anything. I swear, James. I didn't believe him. I didn't trust him. Not anymore. I don't buy it, I snapped. I'm gonna find out what happened, Lucas. And if you're hiding something from me, you better start talking now. I'm not hiding anything, man, he replied, his voice growing defensive. You're overthinking this. Maybe she just needed space like she said. Space. I growled. She didn't need space. She was hiding something and I'm going to find out what. Don't lie to me again, Lucas. The line went dead. I threw the phone onto the couch and stood there, my mind spinning. I had always trusted Lucas, but something felt off. Maybe he was hiding something. Maybe he knew more than he was letting on. I ran my hands through my hair. This wasn't just about Eliza anymore. This was about the people I thought I could trust. I couldn't trust Lucas. But I still didn't know who to trust. I walked over to the counter and grabbed the bank statements again. I had to know who this person was. Why had Eliza transferred that much money to a complete stranger? I dialed the number on the transaction record, my heart hammering in my chest. It rang a few times before someone picked up. Hello. The voice on the other end was smooth, businesslike. Hi, I'm looking for the person associated with this account. The name's George Ellison. There was a brief silence before the voice answered. Sorry, we don't release that kind of information. I hung up, frustration building in my chest. The only thing I knew for sure was that Eliza had been hiding something huge and no one, least of all Lucas, was going to give me answers. I had to find out the truth. And I would. No matter what it took. I couldn't believe it. I had been living in this fog for months, just trying to piece together Eliza's sudden disappearance. I'd spent countless nights staring at her things, wondering where she was, why she left, and if I'd ever see her again. And then, out of nowhere, she was standing in front of me. Eliza. My voice cracked before I could even process the shock of seeing her again. She looked almost the same, except for the hollow look in her eyes. She had always had this spark, a warmth that drew me in, but now it was different. She took a shaky step forward, her eyes filled with apology and something else. Fear, maybe? She opened her mouth to speak, but I couldn't wait for her explanation. The anger came rushing out before I could stop it. Where the hell have you been? I couldn't control the words as they came pouring out. You just disappeared. No explanation. No nothing. I've been going crazy trying to figure out what happened. And now you show up like nothing happened? Her eyes welled up, but she didn't break eye contact. I'm so sorry, James. I didn't mean to hurt you. I had to leave, for my safety. There were things going on that you don't know about. Things I couldn't explain over the phone or in a message. It wasn't about you. It was about me. I felt my chest tighten. For your safety? What the hell does that mean? Why couldn't you trust me? We've been together for years, Eliza. You couldn't tell me? She stepped closer and I could smell her perfume, the same one she used to wear when we first met. It made my heart ache, but I pushed it aside, trying to focus on the words. I didn't want to put you in danger, she said quietly. There were people after me. I thought I could handle it, but things got worse. I couldn't risk you getting hurt because of me. I clenched my fists at my sides, my pulse racing. This wasn't the explanation I had imagined. You could have told me. You didn't have to leave without a word. Without a damn explanation. Her eyes dropped to the floor for a moment before she looked up again. I was scared, James. I didn't know what else to do. I made a mistake and I'm so sorry. The words felt like they were suffocating me. I wanted to be angry. No, I was angry. She had left without even thinking about what it would do to me. But at the same time there was something else, something I couldn't ignore. She was here. In front of me. And I still felt that pull, that damn connection between us, even though everything in my mind screamed at me to push her away. I don't know what to do, Eliza, I muttered, my voice low. I want to trust you, but everything you've said, it doesn't make sense. You disappeared without a trace. You didn't tell me anything. You left me with nothing. I know, she whispered, stepping closer again. And I'm sorry. I've thought about you every day. I thought about calling, but I couldn't. It wasn't safe for me. But I'm here now, and I need you to know that I made a mistake. I was wrong. I stood frozen, the weight of her words crashing down on me. What do you want me to do with that, Eliza? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. You come back after all this time and expect everything to just go back to normal? She reached out slowly, her fingers brushing my arm. I don't expect anything, James. I just want a chance to make things right. I felt my heart race. I could feel the old feelings for her, the way she used to make me feel, trying to break through the walls I'd spent months building. But I wasn't sure I could tear them down that easily. Just then I heard a familiar voice from the doorway. James? It was Clara. My mother's voice was calm, but there was concern in it. Are you okay? I turned to her, almost relieved for the interruption. Clara had always been there for me. She'd seen me at my worst and at my best, and right now I needed her advice. I nodded, trying to shake off the unease. I don't know, Clara, I admitted. She's back. And I don't know if I can forgive her for just leaving. Clara walked over, her gaze shifting to Eliza, then back to me. You've been through a lot, James. And I'm sure Eliza has her reasons. But you need to decide if you can move past the hurt she caused, or if you're going to let it keep you from moving forward. Her words hit me harder than I expected. Could I move forward? Could I forgive Eliza for what she had done? Or was it too late for that? I looked back at Eliza, her face filled with uncertainty and regret. She was waiting for me to make the decision, and I could feel the weight of it pressing down on me. But the truth was, I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know what to believe anymore. I'll figure it out, I said quietly, my eyes still locked on Eliza. But it's not going to be easy. I couldn't keep pretending that everything Eliza was telling me made sense. The more she talked, the more the pieces of her story didn't add up. The contradictions in her explanations were piling up, and I couldn't ignore them anymore. James, I know this is hard to understand, but I'm trying to explain it the best I can, Eliza said, her voice trembling. She was sitting on the edge of the couch, her hands clasped tightly together, as if she was trying to keep herself from falling apart. I had to leave. It wasn't safe for me to stay. I crossed my arms, standing across from her. The anger I had been holding back was starting to break through. Safe? Safe from what, Eliza? You tell me you're in danger and then you disappear without a word. I don't buy it. You've been hiding something from me and I want to know what it is. Her eyes widened and I saw the panic flare in them. I'm not hiding anything. You have to believe me. This isn't about you. It's about? About who? I cut her off, unable to keep the frustration from my voice. Who were you really running from, Eliza? You keep dancing around the truth and it's making me sick. If you want me to trust you again, then stop lying to me. I watched as she flinched, and for a moment I saw the old Eliza, the one who would always shy away from confrontation. It made me pause, but I quickly shoved that feeling aside. I'm not lying, she said, her voice barely a whisper. I don't know how to explain it. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. Then start by telling me about George Ellison. What's the deal with him? Her face went pale at the mention of his name. It was the first time I'd seen her look truly frightened. George Ellison. The name had been on Eliza's bank statements. The mysterious businessman who had been receiving large transfers from her account. I had a feeling there was more to this story than she was letting on. James, please, she said, shaking her head. I don't want to talk about him. It's complicated. Complicated? My voice grew louder and I could feel the heat rising in my chest. You want me to trust you, but you won't even tell me the truth about this guy? He's been connected to you and I want to know how. Eliza stood up abruptly, taking a step back. I can't tell you. Not yet. It's not the right time. Why? I demanded. Why is it always not the right time? What are you hiding, Eliza? I've been patient, I've been understanding, but you're pushing me too far. I need answers. Now. I'm sorry, she said, her voice cracking. But I can't give you everything, James. Not yet. I could feel the rage building inside me. She was still keeping secrets and I couldn't stand it anymore. My mind was spinning with questions I needed answers to. Why had Eliza been involved with George Ellison? Why couldn't she just tell me the truth? Before I could say anything else, the door to the apartment opened and in walked Victoria Bennett, my father. What the hell is he doing here? I muttered, too angry to even try to hide the bitterness in my voice. Eliza seemed relieved to see him, but my heart sank. My father had a knack for showing up at the worst times. He hadn't been a part of my life for years and now here he was walking back into my mess. James, Victoria said in that calm, cold voice of his, I think it's time we had a conversation. I shook my head, unable to mask my disbelief. Now is when you decide to show up. Listen to me, son, Victoria continued, his tone as emotionless as ever. You don't have all the pieces of the puzzle yet. There's more to this than you know. I turned to Eliza, my eyes burning with anger and distrust. What the hell is going on, Eliza? First you disappear. Then you're involved with some businessman I've never even met and now my father is involved in this mess? What am I supposed to believe? Eliza looked at me with tears welling in her eyes, but her expression was still guarded. James, I swear, I never wanted any of this to happen. I didn't know who else to turn to. George, he's been helping me. And now it's spiraled out of control. But I never wanted you to be a part of it. I was beyond frustrated. The walls were closing in on me and all I had were more questions, no answers. Helping you? What does that even mean? Before Eliza could respond, Victoria spoke up again, his voice unyielding. It's complicated, James. You have no idea what your mother and I were involved in. And it's all tied to George Ellison. I froze. My mother? This was bigger than I had thought. I had no idea what kind of business Victoria and Eliza were wrapped up in, but now it felt like I was drowning in a sea of secrets I didn't know how to navigate. Tell me everything, I demanded, my voice low but filled with urgency. Now. But Victoria just gave me a tight, controlled smile. Not yet. When the time is right, you'll understand. But not a moment before. I looked between him and Eliza, both of them standing there, withholding the truth, and the anger inside me flared even hotter. I wanted to scream, to demand the answers I was owed, but I knew that would get me nowhere. For now I had no choice but to wait. I couldn't breathe. The words Lucas had just said hit me like a freight train, and I couldn't process them fast enough. You knew about Eliza, I said, my voice trembling with anger. You knew about her dealings with George Ellison, and you never told me? Lucas looked away, unable to meet my eyes. His silence was confirmation enough. I clenched my fists, feeling the heat of betrayal rise in me, burning through every inch of my body. Why the hell didn't you tell me, Lucas? I trusted you. You were supposed to be my friend. My voice cracked as the weight of it all crashed down on me. You knew and you said nothing. You let me suffer. Let me live in the dark. Lucas finally met my gaze, his face full of guilt. I didn't want to get involved, James. Eliza told me not to. She made me promise I wouldn't say anything. She was in deep and I didn't know how to help. She told me not to tell you because she didn't want to drag you into it. She was trying to protect you. Protect me? I scoffed, the anger bubbling over. From what, Lucas? From the truth? I don't need protection from the truth. I needed you to tell me the damn truth. I needed you to help me, not sit by and watch me fall apart. I could see the pain in Lucas's eyes, but it only made me angrier. I was your best friend and you let her keep secrets from me. You knew she was in trouble and you did nothing. Lucas took a step forward, his voice softening. I'm sorry, James. I never wanted to hurt you. But I was stuck between a rock and a hard place. Eliza asked me to keep it quiet. She was in over her head and I didn't want to make it worse. I thought. Thought what? I interrupted, my tone venomous. That I wouldn't find out? That I wouldn't notice when she started disappearing, when money started moving around. You thought I wouldn't see it? Lucas stepped back, defeated. I didn't know what to do, man. I really didn't. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside me. It wasn't just Lucas. It was Eliza too. The lies. The deceit. I felt like I didn't even know the person I'd been in love with. I turned to face Eliza, my chest tight with fury. "And you," I said, my voice low but filled with rage. "You've been lying to me this whole time. About George Ellison. About everything." Eliza flinched and I saw the guilt flash across her face. But it didn't matter anymore. "Why didn't you tell me, Eliza?" I asked, my voice a harsh whisper. "Why didn't you come to me? I could have helped. You didn't have to keep all this from me." Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't speak. She just stood there, too ashamed to even look at me. "I needed you to be honest with me," I continued, my voice breaking. "I trusted you. But you betrayed me. You both did." Eliza stepped forward, her hands shaking as she reached out to me. "James, please. I didn't want to hurt you. I never wanted to hurt you. Everything got out of control. I thought I could fix it myself, but I couldn't. And I was too scared to tell you. I'm sorry." Her words felt hollow. They didn't matter anymore. I had been played, lied to, and manipulated. I wanted to scream at her, to make her feel the pain I was feeling. But instead I just stood there, numb. "You think sorry is enough?" I spat. "Sorry doesn't fix this. You ruined everything." She stepped back, tears running down her face, but I didn't care. My heart felt like it had shattered into a million pieces, and it wasn't just Eliza who had broken it. It was Lucas too. The betrayal cut deep, and I wasn't sure how I could ever trust either of them again. I turned to Lucas, my fists clenched at my sides. "And you, don't even talk to me about protecting me anymore. You've crossed a line. You've ruined everything, Lucas." His face was pale, his eyes filled with regret. "James, I never meant to hurt you." "Well, you did," I said, shaking my head. "You let me down. You both let me down." I felt like I was suffocating in the weight of it all. The anger, the betrayal, it was overwhelming. I had to get away from them. I couldn't look at either of them anymore. I turned away from both of them, my mind spinning. "I can't do this anymore," I said, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. "You've both betrayed me. And I'm done. I'm done with all of this." I walked toward the door, but before I stepped out, I turned back to look at them one last time. Eliza stood there, crying, her face pale and stricken with guilt. Lucas was looking at me, his expression a mix of shame and sorrow. But it didn't matter. It was over. "I'll make you both pay for this," I whispered, more to myself than to them. "I'll make you regret this." And with that, I slammed the door behind me, my heart burning with anger and betrayal. There was no going back. They had both destroyed everything. I couldn't remember the last time I'd felt this angry, this alive. The burning rage inside me was sharp, like a weapon I could finally control. I'd spent too long wondering why Eliza had betrayed me, but now I was ready to make her pay. I wasn't going to let her walk away from this. Not when she had ripped everything away from me. I picked up the phone, my mind working faster than ever. I needed leverage. I needed power. I couldn't just wait for the truth to come out. I had to make it happen. "Lucas," I said, my voice low, almost cold, "I need you to dig up everything you can on George Ellison." "Are you sure about this, James?" Lucas's voice on the other end sounded hesitant, unsure. I could almost hear the concern in his words. "Do you think I'm joking? I'm done sitting back while everyone else plays their games. George Ellison is the key to everything. He's the one pulling the strings, and I'm going to make sure he falls." There was a pause, and I could hear Lucas shift on the other end. "All right, but you know this could get messy. If you do this, there's no turning back." "I'm not looking for a way back, Lucas. I just want to see them pay." The line went quiet for a moment, and then Lucas finally responded. "I'll get to work. I'll find something on Ellison." I hung up and sat back, the weight of what I was about to do settling in. I had to be careful. I couldn't afford to slip up. Every move I made had to be calculated. Eliza hadn't stopped calling. Every time I saw her name flash on my phone, my anger surged. She was desperate. I could feel it in every message, every voicemail. She wanted to fix things, to make it right. But it was too late for apologies. The damage was done. She had no idea what I was capable of now. I leaned back in the chair, staring at the phone screen. The next message from Eliza flashed up. "James, please. I know I messed up. But this isn't the way. You don't have to do this. Please talk to me." I laughed bitterly. Talk to her? After everything she'd done? She thought a few tearful words would undo the chaos she'd caused in my life? I deleted the message and tossed the phone on the table. I wasn't going to let her guilt trip me into being weak again. I was done. I needed to bring George Ellison to his knees, and I was going to use everything I had to do it. I started pulling strings, using contacts I had in the business world, people who owed me favors. With my charm and my connections, I began weaving a web of influence around George. The more I dug, the more I realized how deep his involvement went. The man had his fingers in everything and he thought he was untouchable. But not anymore. A few days later, I was sitting in my office when the door opened. I didn't have to look up to know who it was. "Detective Owens," I said, my voice flat. "What can I do for you?" Samuel Owens stepped inside, a thick manila folder in his hand. He didn't look like the kind of detective you'd expect to see in a movie, no trench coat or dramatic entrance. But the weight in his eyes told me he was serious. "James Bennett, right?" Owens asked, his voice low but firm. "That's me." I didn't make it easy for him, but I wasn't afraid either. "I've been looking into Eliza Turner's disappearance," Owens said, sitting down across from me. "I'm starting to think there's more to this story than we've been told. We've got some leads on George Ellison's involvement. Looks like he's got a history with people who disappear." I felt a spark of satisfaction. I'd been right. George was tangled up in this somehow. "You think Ellison had something to do with Eliza's disappearance?" I asked, my voice steady though my insides were churning. "I can't say for sure yet," Owens replied, flipping open the folder. "But I'm getting close. He's involved in some pretty shady business. I'm going to need your help to put pressure on him, James. If you've got any more information, now's the time to share." I thought about it for a moment. "You want information on George?" I asked, leaning forward. "I can help you with that. But it's going to cost." Owens raised an eyebrow but didn't respond right away. He knew how the game worked. Everyone had a price. "Fine," Owens said after a pause. "I'll get you what you need. You just get me something on Ellison. Make sure he knows we're coming for him." The deal was struck. I had my connections and now Owens had his. Together we were going to bring down George Ellison. By the time the weekend rolled around, I'd used every tool at my disposal to corner George. His empire, built on lies and manipulation, was beginning to crumble. The pressure was mounting and I could feel the walls closing in on him. I met with one of my contacts late that night in a small, quiet café. The information they gave me was gold. George had been laundering money through a shell corporation. I had the evidence and now I just needed to make sure the right people saw it. It was only a matter of time before George's world came crashing down. And when it did, Eliza would be right there with him. She had no idea what kind of storm I was about to unleash. The next message from Eliza came through as I was about to head to bed. "James, please. I love you. I'll do anything. Just please let me fix this." But I wasn't interested in fixing things. I was interested in justice. And for Eliza, that meant making her feel the consequences of her actions. I tapped the screen, deleting her message without responding. It was too late for apologies. The phone buzzed again. Eliza's name flashed on the screen, but this time I couldn't bring myself to answer it. My hands were trembling, not from fear but from the weight of everything I had done, everything I was about to do. Every choice, every lie I uncovered, it was all leading to one final act. I couldn't stop myself. The power I had was intoxicating. It made me feel in control, like I was the one who held the strings to everyone else's fate. I had George Ellison cornered, vulnerable. The moment of his downfall was coming, and I was the one orchestrating it all. But as the days went by, something inside me began to change. I had spent so much time planning, scheming. I told myself I was doing it for justice, that I was making Eliza and everyone who had wronged me pay. But deep down I knew it wasn't justice anymore. It was revenge. And revenge, I had learned, was a poison that consumed everything it touched, including me. I had been so focused on making them suffer that I hadn't even considered the toll it was taking on me. I hadn't thought about how far I had strayed from the man I used to be. All I could think about was the next move, the next step in my plan, but with every new piece of information I felt like I was losing a part of myself. I let out a breath and threw the phone down on the table. Eliza's messages were now more desperate than before. The guilt in her words was palpable, but her apologies came too late. I'd already made my decision. Or so I thought. The door creaked open and I looked up. Eliza stood there, hesitating, her eyes filled with regret. She didn't move, just stood there waiting for me to speak. "I don't want to talk to you," I said, my voice cold. The words came out harsher than I meant, but the anger was still there, burning just below the surface. "Eliza, please," she said quietly, stepping inside. "I know I've screwed up. I know I hurt you. But I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, James. I never meant for any of this to happen." I could hear the sincerity in her voice, but it wasn't enough. Nothing was enough. She had made her choice when she walked away from me. She had chosen to keep secrets, to lie, and to push me aside when I needed her most. I don't care about your apologies anymore, I said, standing up. You took everything from me. And now you want me to forgive you? After everything? Do you really think it's that easy? Her face fell and I could see the pain in her eyes. I know I can't undo what I did. But James, I was scared. I didn't know what else to do. You don't understand, things got out of control and I didn't want you involved. I never wanted you to be hurt. Her words hit me harder than I expected. I closed my eyes, rubbing my forehead, trying to fight the weakness I felt creeping in. Part of me still cared. Part of me still wanted to believe her, wanted to believe that she was telling the truth. But it wasn't that simple. You don't get to come back and say you were scared, I said, my voice shaking slightly. You can't just walk out of my life and expect everything to be fine. You left me in the dark, Eliza. You left me to pick up the pieces while you disappeared. She stepped closer, her voice breaking. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm begging you, James. Please just give me a chance. I made a mistake. A huge mistake. But I can't fix it unless you let me. The desperation in her voice was almost too much to bear. I could feel the old feelings for her stirring inside me, the ones I had buried deep down. But I couldn't ignore the truth. The damage was done. And I had already decided that I wasn't going to be the same person I was before she left. I can't trust you anymore, I said, the words heavy on my tongue. You've broken me, Eliza. I can't keep doing this. I can't keep hoping you'll change, that you'll suddenly become the person I thought you were. You don't get to come back into my life just because you feel guilty. I could see her fighting back tears. Her hands trembled at her sides, and her voice barely came out when she spoke again. James, I never wanted to hurt you. I thought I was protecting you. I thought if I just walked away you'd be safer. But I was wrong. I was wrong about everything. I'm sorry. Her words, though full of regret, couldn't undo what had been done. I could see the hurt in her eyes, but it wasn't enough to change anything. I had been hurt too much, betrayed too many times. And now my heart was a hardened shell. I turned away, my back to her. It's too late, Eliza. I've already made my choice. She didn't say anything else. I didn't turn around to look at her, but I could feel her presence, standing there, crushed by the weight of her own guilt. And I felt it too, guilt, regret, and anger swirling together inside me. But there was no going back. I'm done, I whispered, though I wasn't sure if I was saying it to her or to myself. I couldn't keep living like this, clinging to the past, to a love that had already betrayed me. And with that, Eliza left. She didn't ask for forgiveness again. She didn't beg me to change my mind. She knew it was over. So did I. I was done with the lies, the games, and the manipulation. Revenge had consumed me, but now it was time to let go. It was time to step into a new chapter, no matter how much it hurt. I stood in the middle of my apartment, staring at the city lights below, but nothing felt real anymore. I had achieved everything I set out to do. George Ellison was on the verge of losing everything. His empire crumbling, his reputation in tatters, all thanks to me. I had orchestrated his downfall, exposed the man for the fraud he was. But why did it feel like a hollow victory? I heard my phone buzz on the table and I knew it was Eliza before I even looked. Her name flashed across the screen. I didn't even bother answering. I didn't need to hear her voice anymore. The damage was done. But as the days passed, something started to shift inside me. I wasn't feeling victorious. No sense of justice or closure came with George's fall. Instead, I felt empty. It had been a few days since I set everything in motion, and the silence was deafening. Eliza's life was spiraling out of control. George had distanced himself from her completely, cutting off all contact, leaving her with nothing but the wreckage of their toxic relationship. She had made her own mess, but the more I saw her suffering, the more I realized that it wasn't satisfying me the way I thought it would. I tried to ignore the guilt that gnawed at the edges of my conscience, but it was impossible to drown out. Every time Eliza reached out, apologizing or begging for a second chance, I could feel a piece of me breaking apart. I had won, but it felt like I had lost everything. The phone buzzed again. It was Eliza once more. I debated answering, but I already knew what she would say. More apologies, more pleading. Her voice was always the same, desperate and filled with regret. But this time something inside me snapped. I answered the call, my heart pounding. Eliza, I said, my voice steady but cold. What is it? There was a pause and then she spoke, her voice fragile. James, I don't know what else to say. I've messed up everything. You were right, I didn't tell you the truth. I was scared and now look at where I am. I've lost everything. Please, I can't do this anymore. I just want a chance to fix things. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. You had your chance, Eliza. You had your chance when you walked away from me. You didn't trust me. You didn't think I deserved to know. And now you want me to feel sorry for you? I'm not asking for your pity, James. I'm asking for your forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it, but I love you. I've always loved you. I'm sorry for everything. I squeezed my eyes shut. It's too late, I said, my voice thick with emotion I wasn't ready to deal with. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. Her silence was enough to break me. I'd gotten my revenge, but in the end, it felt like I had done more harm to myself than anyone else. I wasn't the person I used to be, and I wasn't sure if I could go back. A knock at the door pulled me out of my thoughts. I didn't expect anyone, no one came around anymore. But when I opened it, I found Catherine Moore standing there. I hadn't seen her in a few weeks, not since the last time we'd worked together. James, she said softly, stepping inside when I didn't move. We need to talk. I stepped aside, letting her in. She always had a way of cutting through my defenses, and right now, I didn't have the energy to put up walls. About what? I asked, my voice still rough from the call with Eliza. You, she said simply, crossing the room and sitting on the couch. You've been carrying a lot of weight on your shoulders lately. And I think it's time you finally take a look at what you've done. I didn't need her to lecture me. I already knew what I had done. But Catherine had a way of making things clear, even when I didn't want to hear it. I've gotten everything I wanted, I said, sitting down across from her. George Ellison is finished. Eliza is falling apart. I got my revenge, Catherine. What else is there to say? James, she said, her voice softer now, almost like she was pitying me. Revenge doesn't fix things. It doesn't make the hurt go away. It just fills the empty spaces with more anger, more regret. I shook my head, refusing to hear it. What else was I supposed to do? She lied to me, betrayed me. She deserved everything that happened to her. No, James, she said, her voice firm. She deserved the truth the same as you. But you can't undo the damage by hurting her more. It's tearing you apart. Can't you see that? Her words hit harder than I wanted them to. I didn't want to admit it, but she was right. I had become the very thing I hated. Someone consumed by revenge, someone who couldn't let go of the past. I don't know what to do anymore, I said, my voice raw. I feel like I've lost everything even though I've won. Catherine looked at me, her expression gentle. You can still choose a different path. You don't have to keep holding on to this anger. It's not going to bring you peace. I wanted to argue, but the words caught in my throat. I was exhausted. The anger, the planning, the manipulation, it had all drained me. And for what? Maybe you're right, I whispered, finally giving in. But I don't know if I can forgive her. I don't know if I can ever go back. Catherine stood up, walking over to me. It's not about going back, James. It's about moving forward. And that's the choice you need to make. I sat in silence, the weight of her words sinking in. I had spent so much time planning my revenge that I didn't even realize how much it had consumed me. And now I was faced with the hardest decision of all. Could I forgive Eliza and let go of the past? Or was I too far gone? I sat at my desk, staring at the screen in front of me. The cursor blinked steadily, a reminder that time was moving forward, yet I felt stuck. It had been a week since I'd heard from Eliza, and I couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. Or maybe it already had. My phone buzzed again, and for a moment I didn't want to look. I already knew who it was. Eliza. I had already made up my mind, or at least I thought I had. But part of me still wasn't sure. The past few months had been filled with anger, lies, and revenge, but it had left me empty. I had hurt myself more than anyone else, and now I had to decide if I would keep walking down this path or finally let go of everything that had consumed me. I looked down at the screen. It was a text from Eliza. Please, James. I don't know how to make things right, but I'm begging you. Just let me explain. I felt the familiar tug in my chest, the old aching pull that used to make me smile. But now it was just pain. I had given Eliza so many chances, and I couldn't help but wonder if it was time to stop. To stop waiting for her to fix what she had broken. Still, my fingers hovered over the screen. I had no idea what I wanted anymore. But I knew what I had to do. The knock on the door startled me and I sighed. I didn't need this right now, but I stood up anyway and walked toward the door. When I opened it, Eliza was standing there. Her face was pale, her eyes filled with unshed tears. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Eliza, I said, my voice tired. I thought we agreed. You don't have to keep doing this. I've made my decision. She shook her head, taking a step closer. No, James. Please just hear me out. I know I've messed up. I know I can't undo the past, But I need you to know that I never wanted to hurt you. I was afraid. I didn't want you to get involved in everything with George, and I thought if I left, if I disappeared, it would protect you. But it was a mistake. I crossed my arms, holding back the anger I felt. A mistake? That's what this is to you? A mistake? You think you can just come back and tell me you're sorry and I'll forget everything? I never wanted to hurt you, Eliza repeated, her voice breaking. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I was wrong. I don't expect you to forgive me, James. But I'm asking for a chance to fix things. Please. I'm begging you. I clenched my jaw, the words bubbling up inside me. I could feel the weight of everything I had gone through, the lies, the betrayal. But I also knew something had shifted in me. I couldn't keep holding on to the anger anymore. It was poisoning me. I'm not sure I can ever forgive you, Eliza, I said quietly, my voice steady but filled with sorrow. I can't pretend like it didn't hurt. You broke me, and I don't know if I can ever rebuild from that. Her face crumpled in despair, but she didn't turn away. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I'm asking for something I have no right to ask for. But please, James, if you can't forgive me, then just let me go. Let me know that you'll be okay. Her plea hit me harder than anything she'd said before. She wasn't just asking for my forgiveness. She was asking for my peace, my permission to move on. I stared at her for a long moment, feeling the weight of her words. Why didn't you just tell me? I whispered, almost to myself. Why didn't you trust me? I was scared, Eliza said softly, stepping closer. I was scared of losing you, and I thought if I left it would keep you safe. But I see now that I just kept pushing you away and I ruined everything. For the first time I felt like I understood her. But understanding didn't make it easier. She had hurt me in ways I couldn't undo. And I had hurt myself too by holding on to the need for revenge, for retribution. But now I had to decide if it was worth it to continue down that path, or if I could walk away from the anger and finally heal. I didn't answer her right away. I couldn't. I had so many emotions swirling inside me, but none of them felt like the right answer. I can't keep doing this, Eliza, I said after a long pause. I've spent so long holding on to this anger, and it's not bringing me peace. I need to let go, not for you but for me. Her eyes searched mine, and for the first time, I saw real relief in her expression, even though it was bittersweet. James, she whispered, her voice cracking. I'm so sorry. I know I can never make this right, but I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make up for it. I don't know if that's enough, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. But I have to move on. For both of us. She nodded slowly, tears running down her face. I understand. I closed the door behind her, the finality of the decision weighing heavy on my chest. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It wasn't about making Eliza suffer. It was about me. The decision had been made. I wasn't sure where I would go from here, but I knew that I had to let go of the past. The road ahead wasn't clear, but for the first time in a long while, I felt like I was walking toward healing, not toward destruction. Forgiveness wasn't easy. It wasn't something I had to give her, but something I needed to give myself. I stood in front of Eliza's apartment door, my hand hovering over the doorbell. It had been weeks since I last saw her, and now, here I was, about to face her and George Ellison in the same room. I had no idea what to expect, but I knew this was the moment I'd been waiting for. Eliza had reached out to me again, begging for one last chance to explain, to make everything right. And I was here now, ready to listen but also ready to confront everything that had happened. I pushed the doorbell and waited. It felt like hours before the door opened. When Eliza saw me, her face softened, but there was a hesitation in her eyes. I could see she was still nervous, still uncertain. James, she said, her voice trembling. You came. I nodded, crossing my arms. Yeah, I came. But I'm not here to relive the past. I'm here to face it. I need to know everything. From you. From George. Eliza stepped back, and behind her, George Ellison emerged from the shadows of the apartment. His face was calm, almost too calm. But I saw the subtle shift in his eyes when he realized I was serious. This was it. This was the moment where everything would be laid out on the table. You've got a lot of nerve showing up here, James, George said, his voice as cold and calculated as ever. I didn't flinch. I couldn't afford to. I didn't come here for you, George. I came here for answers. For Eliza. And for me. Eliza's eyes flickered between George and me, but she said nothing. The silence between us was suffocating. I could feel the weight of everything that had happened pressing down on me, but I wasn't going to let it break me. Tell me everything, I said, my voice steady but firm. How did it all start? How did you get involved with George, Eliza? Why didn't you tell me the truth? Eliza looked down, biting her lip, struggling to find the words. I didn't want to drag you into it, James, she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. At first it was just business. George, he helped me when I was in a bad place. And then it spiraled. I didn't know how to stop it. I didn't know how to ask for help. I stepped closer, my anger flaring. And you thought the best way to protect me was to lie to me? To shut me out? I thought I was protecting you, she said, tears welling in her eyes. I didn't want you to get hurt because of me. But I was wrong, James. I see that now. And I'm sorry. The apology felt empty. How could it not? She had made her choices. And every decision she'd made had led to this moment. And you, I said, turning to George. You're just as guilty. You used her. Played her. All for your own gain. George's expression remained unchanged. He didn't care. He never had. I did what was necessary, James. You wouldn't understand. Eliza was a means to an end. She was always going to be disposable once I got what I needed. I wanted to punch him. I wanted to tear him apart for everything he'd done, not just to Eliza but to me. To everyone who had ever been in his orbit. But I didn't. I couldn't. I took a deep breath, pushing the anger aside. It wasn't worth it. Not anymore. You're both pathetic, I said, my voice cold now. But I'm done. I'm done with the lies. Done with the games. I don't need closure from either of you. I don't need anything. Eliza reached out, her hand trembling. James, please, don't leave like this. Please just give me a chance. I shook my head, stepping back. I've given you enough chances, Eliza. It's too late. It's always been too late. She collapsed against the wall, her face buried in her hands as sobs racked her body. George stood there, unmoved. I couldn't look at her any longer. I couldn't let myself feel sorry for her. She had made her choices and now she had to live with them. And so did I. I'm done, I whispered, more to myself than to anyone else. I can't keep holding on to this. I turned and walked away, out of the apartment and into the hallway. The weight of everything I had been holding inside for so long felt like it was lifting off my shoulders. For the first time in months, I felt a strange sense of clarity. I wasn't just walking away from Eliza and George. I was walking away from the past. From the anger. The resentment. The need for revenge. It wasn't easy. It still hurt. But I couldn't keep living in that space. I needed to move forward. I needed to heal. And for the first time, I felt like I was on the path to doing that. I stepped out into the night, the cool air hitting my face. I had no idea what the future held, but I knew one thing. I was done with the past. Done with the lies and the pain. It was time for a new chapter. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the city skyline through the window. The view hadn't changed, but I had. Everything around me felt different now, quieter, more manageable. For the first time in months, I wasn't burdened by the weight of anger, regret, or the need for vengeance. I had spent so long holding on to the past, fighting against the people who had wronged me, and in doing so, I had lost sight of what I really wanted. Revenge had seemed so sweet, so necessary, but in the end, it left me empty. I leaned back, letting out a deep breath. My phone buzzed on the table, but I didn't reach for it. I didn't need to hear from Eliza or anyone else. I had made my peace. At least I was beginning to. A few days ago, I'd walked out of Eliza's life for good. Her apologies had been genuine, I could tell that. But they weren't enough. They couldn't undo the damage. And as much as I had once hoped for a future with her, I knew that wasn't possible anymore. When I left her apartment, it wasn't just her I was walking away from. It was everything I'd built up around my anger, my need for control. I had let revenge shape my life for too long, and now I was letting go. I stood up and walked over to the window, the cool air from the city creeping in. The familiar noise of the traffic, the hum of the people moving around, it was comforting in its own way. It was a reminder that life kept moving no matter how stuck I felt. I looked at my reflection in the glass. My face had changed, my eyes, darker, sharper. But they weren't the eyes of someone consumed by hatred anymore. There was something lighter in them now, something that felt like hope. And it wasn't just about moving on from Eliza. It was about moving on from the version of myself that had needed to hurt others in order to feel whole. I had learned that the hard way. I felt my phone buzz again. This time I grabbed it. The message was from Catherine Moore. I'm proud of you, James. You've come a long way. I know it hasn't been easy, but you're finally free. Now it's time to live. A small smile tugged at my lips. Catherine had been a rock for me when I had nothing left. She had been there when I couldn't see past the anger, when I couldn't understand how I was supposed to move on. And now it felt like I was standing at the edge of something new. I had spent too long looking backward, trapped in the past, trying to figure out where everything went wrong. But the truth was, I didn't have to keep looking back. I could walk forward one step at a time. The phone buzzed again, but this time it was a number I didn't recognize. I hesitated for only a second before answering. Hello? My voice sounded stronger than I expected. I wasn't the same person I had been. James Bennett? The voice on the other end was unfamiliar but professional. Yes, I replied cautiously. This is Detective Samuel Owens. I've been investigating George Ellison's activities. I wanted to thank you for your help in taking him down. We've made significant progress and we owe a lot of that to you. I stood there, the weight of the situation dawning on me. I had done it. George Ellison was going down, but it wasn't just about him. It was about everything I had been through, everything I had learned. I had the power to make a difference in my life, and I hadn't realized it until now. I'm just glad it's over, I said, my voice more at peace than it had ever been. We'll be in touch if we need anything else, James, Owens said. But I think you've done more than enough. I hung up, feeling the weight lift off my shoulders even more. The past was behind me. And now I could finally breathe. As I walked out into the street, I felt the sun on my face for the first time in what felt like ages. The sky was clear, the air fresh. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I could actually move forward. I had faced the consequences of my actions, walked through the storm, and now I was on the other side. And while the scars would remain, they wouldn't define me. They would be reminders, yes, but reminders of how far I had come. I wasn't perfect. I knew that. And maybe I'd never be. But that was okay. I was learning to accept the imperfections, to let go of the need to control everything. The truth was, I was human and I didn't need to hide from that anymore. I took a deep breath, looking ahead. The future was unknown, but for the first time I felt ready to face it. Ready to walk into a new chapter of my life, free from the shackles of the past. And whatever came next, I knew I could handle it. I had already faced my demons and I had come out stronger on the other side. The journey wasn't over. But this was the beginning of something new.